Jesus Maria.
Chyba nie wiem.
Хули, блядь, в полуфинале?
Давай, 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 мы еще не проиграли, ребята.
Да что ты, блядь?
I'll break you down.
Yeah, okay, I'll win this rally, bro.
I'll break you down.
My back and you're for it, I take this all day.
I'll break you down.
Coco Gauff's $33 million empire just destroyed Sabalenka. The silence says everything. The tennis world just exploded, and nobody saw it coming. Well, actually, maybe we all should have seen it coming. But the sheer magnitude of what just dropped has left jaws on the floor from Melbourne to New York. The official list of the highest-paid female athletes of 2025 has been released, and sitting comfortably at the absolute top, like a queen surveying her kingdom, is none other than Coco Gauff. But this isn't just another feel-good story about a young athlete making bank. Oh no, this is so much juicier than that. This is about power, perception, and a rivalry that just went from simmering tension to full-blown warfare. Because while Coco is counting her millions and posing for magazine covers, there's one person who isn't celebrating, one person who isn't posting congratulations on social media, one person whose silence is so deafening it's practically screaming. That person is Sabalenka, and folks, she just got served a reality check that no amount of Grand Slam trophies can cash. Welcome back to Champions Tennisitics, and if you're not already subscribed to this channel, what are you even doing? We're building the ultimate community for tennis fans who want the real story, the drama, the money, and everything the mainstream media won't tell you. Hit that subscribe button right now because trust me, you do not want to miss what's coming. We're diving deep into the story that has everyone picking sides, and by the end of this, you're going to understand exactly why this financial report is more explosive than any match these two have ever played. Let's talk numbers, because numbers don't lie, and these numbers are absolutely staggering. Coco Gauff has officially been crowned the highest-paid female athlete on the entire planet for 2025. We're talking about a total earnings package of approximately $33 million. Let me say that again slowly, so it really sinks in. $33 million. In 1 year. She's 21 years old, and she's out-earning literally every female athlete in existence. Every WNBA superstar, every soccer legend, every Olympic champion, every single one of them is looking up at Coco Gauff on this list. She has become a financial force of nature, a walking, talking, tennis-playing money-printing machine. But here's where this story gets absolutely fascinating and more than a little bit messy. When you break down exactly how Coco made this fortune, you start to see why this has become such a sensitive, controversial topic in the tennis world. Of that massive $33 million haul, Coco earned approximately $8 million in prize money. That's actual tennis earnings, money she made by winning matches, advancing through tournaments, and performing on the court. $8 million is nothing to sneeze at, obviously. That's a fantastic year by any measure. But then we get to the real story, the part that has everyone talking and has one specific rival absolutely seething with frustration. The other $25 million came from endorsements, off-court earnings, sponsorship deals, brand partnerships. Coco Gauff made more than 3 times as much money from not playing tennis than she did from actually playing tennis. She made $25 million essentially for being Coco Gauff, for existing, for smiling at cameras, and wearing the right sneakers. This is what we call the Coco effect, and it's a phenomenon that's rewriting the economics of women's tennis right before our eyes. The corporate world has fallen completely in love with Coco Gauff. New Balance isn't just sponsoring her, they're building entire marketing campaigns around her personality. Rolex wants her wrist in their advertisements. Bose, Barilla, UPS, and practically every Fortune 500 company with a marketing budget is lining up to throw money at her. She's transcended tennis and become a cultural icon, a symbol of excellence, youth, and the American dream all wrapped up in one incredibly marketable package. Brands aren't just buying her tennis skills, they're buying her story, her authenticity, her connection with fans, and her ability to move products off shelves. When Coco Gauff wears something, posts something, or says something, millions of people pay attention. That attention is worth its weight in gold, and the corporate world knows it. Now, before we go any further, we need to talk about the woman sitting in second place on this list, because this is where the drama really intensifies. Aryna Sabalenka came in at number 2 with total earnings of approximately $30 million. That's an incredible amount of money, and nobody is suggesting otherwise. Sabalenka has every right to be proud of what she's accomplished financially. But when you look closer at how she earned that money, the story becomes far more complicated and reveals a gap that goes way beyond dollars and cents. This gap reveals something that has to be eating Sabalenka alive from the inside. Aryna Sabalenka actually earned more prize money than Coco Gauff this year. Let me repeat that because it's crucial to understanding why this whole situation is so emotionally charged. Sabalenka brought in nearly $15 million in pure prize money, almost double what Coco made on the court. Why? Because by virtually every objective tennis metric, Sabalenka had the better season. She went deeper in more tournaments. She won bigger titles. She was more consistent at the highest levels. She was playing absolutely lights-out tennis, destroying opponents with a ferocity that made her one of the most feared competitors on tour. By the measure of who's actually better at the sport of tennis, the prize money suggests it's Sabalenka. She was the warrior of 2025, the woman doing the hard work, grinding through matches, battling through the physical and mental demands of elite competition. She earned every penny of that $15 million in the most legitimate way possible by being excellent at her craft. But here's the gut punch. Here's the part that has to feel like a knife to the heart. While Coco made $25 million in endorsements, Sabalenka made approximately $15 million off the court. That's a $10 million gap in likability and marketability. $10 million that represents the difference between being a great tennis player and being a global superstar. That gap says something that has to be incredibly painful for Sabalenka to accept. It says that you can win all the matches you want, you can dominate the tour, you can be the better player by virtually every competitive measure, and the world will still choose someone else as its favorite. The corporate world, the media, the casual fans, they've all made their choice, and that choice is Coco Gauff. That's not a tennis judgment, that's a popularity contest, and Sabalenka just lost by a landslide. This is the reality that's driving Sabalenka absolutely crazy, and honestly, who could blame her? Imagine being in her position. Imagine working your entire life to be the best at something, sacrificing everything, pushing your body to its absolute limits, and then watching someone who you beat on the court regularly make significantly more money than you because people just like them better. That's not fair in any traditional sense of the word. That's not meritocracy. That's not the athlete who trains hardest and performs best getting rewarded the most. For someone who is genuinely hurt, someone who feels that celebrating this particular achievement would be endorsing a system that she believes is fundamentally unfair. There's a theory gaining traction in tennis circles that Sabalenka views Coco's commercial success as manufactured, as a product of American media bias and corporate preference rather than genuine merit. From Sabalenka's perspective, she's the one putting in the work on the court, she's the one winning the big matches, and yet Coco gets the rewards. Seeing that disparity quantified so starkly, seeing it laid out in black and white with a $10 million endorsement gap staring her in the face, that must have stung in ways that are hard to fully articulate. Sometimes silence is the only response when you're too angry or hurt to trust what you might say out loud. This moment of conspicuous silence harkens back to the event that really defined this rivalry and turned it from professional competition into something far more personal and emotionally charged. We need to talk about the US Open final, because that's where this bitterness was born, where the seeds of this current tension were planted. That match was supposed to be Sabalenka's coronation. She came in as the world number 1. She had the momentum. She had the power game that on paper should have overwhelmed Coco's defensive style. She won the first set convincingly and looked like she was going to cruise to victory. And then something shifted, something that had nothing to do with tennis strategy and everything to do with environment and psychology. The crowd at Arthur Ashe Stadium, 24,000 passionate, loud, overwhelmingly partisan American fans, turned that tennis match into something closer to a home team playoff game. They weren't just cheering for Coco Gauff, they were actively cheering against Aryna Sabalenka. Every time Sabalenka missed a first serve, the crowd erupted as if Coco had hit a winner. Every time Sabalenka showed frustration, the volume increased. Every time she tried to compose herself, the atmosphere reminded her that she was alone out there, facing not just one opponent, but thousands. It was psychological warfare conducted by proxy, and it was extraordinarily effective. Coco, who had grown up dreaming of this exact moment, fed off that energy. She used the crowd as a sixth sense, letting their support lift her when her legs got tired and her shots got tight. When Coco won that final point and collapsed on the court in pure joy, when the stadium exploded in celebration and the entire arena felt like it might lift off its foundation, the cameras found Aryna Sabalenka. She was sitting on her bench, staring into the void, looking like someone who had just been hit by a truck. This wasn't just disappointment at losing a match. This was devastation. This was the look of someone who felt they'd been cheated by circumstances beyond their control. Later footage that leaked from the locker room area showed the real depth of her anguish. There was a smashed racket. There were tears of frustration and rage. This was a woman who felt she'd lost far more than just a tennis match. The press conference afterward became another flashpoint in this rivalry. Sabalenka tried to maintain her composure, tried to give the expected gracious in-defeat responses, but the cracks showed. She made comments that many observers interpreted as dismissive of Coco's achievement. She talked extensively about her own errors rather than Coco's excellence. She strongly implied that Coco hadn't so much won the match as Sabalenka had lost it through unforced mistakes. She made pointed references to the crowd being unfair, to the environment being impossible to deal with. She refused to give Coco full credit for finding a way to win under immense pressure. That press conference turned Sabalenka into a villain in the eyes of many American fans. But from her perspective, she was just being honest about an experience that felt deeply unjust. That U.S. Open final was the origin story of this bitter rivalry. That was the moment it became personal. That was when Sabalenka decided that she wasn't just competing against Coco Gauff on the tennis court. She was fighting against everything Coco represented. The media bias, the American privilege, the corporate preference, all of it. And now, seeing Coco monetize that U.S. Open victory and everything that came with it to the tune of $33 million, while Sabalenka made $30 million despite being the more successful player on the court, it's the ultimate validation of Sabalenka's worst fears. The scoreboard that matters most in professional sports isn't the one that tracks wins and losses. It's the one that tracks dollars and cents. And by that measure, Coco just won decisively. The internet, never one to miss an opportunity for drama, has been absolutely ruthless with this storyline. The word humbled is trending next to Sabalenka's name across multiple platforms. Why? Because for the last 6 months, Sabalenka has been walking around with the confidence and swagger of someone who believes she's the best player in the world. She's been dominating tournaments. She's been crushing opponents. She's been playing with a certainty and self-belief that comes from knowing you're operating at the peak of your powers. That confidence is part of what makes her such a dangerous competitor, but it also makes these public moments of being surpassed feel more significant. The concept of being humbled in this context isn't about tennis skill. Sabalenka isn't being humbled on the court. She's being humbled in the marketplace of public opinion and commercial value. She's learning a harsh lesson about her place in the broader ecosystem of professional sports. She's realizing that she can be the best player in the world by competitive metrics and still not be the face of the sport. She can have the superior serve, the better ground strokes, the more impressive trophy case, and still not be the person that brands want to build campaigns around. That's a reality check that no amount of training can prepare you for. It's a reminder that in modern professional sports, talent is only one piece of the equation, and sometimes it's not even the most important piece. For someone like Aryna Sabalenka, who has dedicated her entire life to being excellent at tennis, who has sacrificed relationships and normalcy and everything else people give up to chase athletic greatness, that realization has to cut deep. She didn't sign up to be a marketing entity. She signed up to be a tennis player. But the modern sports world demands both. And if you can't deliver on the marketing side, you'll watch others surpass you in ways that feel fundamentally unfair. That's not the world Sabalenka wants to live in, but it's the world she's stuck in, and this financial report is a stark reminder of that reality. But here's where this story takes a fascinating and potentially dangerous turn, and it's the reason why everyone in tennis should be paying very close attention to how Aryna Sabalenka responds to this humiliation. This snub, this financial disrespect, this public confirmation that she's valued less despite being arguably more successful as a competitor, This could be the fuel for one of the most compelling villain arcs in modern sports. History has shown us repeatedly that Sabalenka plays her absolute best tennis when she's angry, when she feels disrespected, when she has something to prove. Pulling punches or sanitizing things to protect feelings. If that's the kind of tennis content you want, if you're tired of the corporate-approved narratives that treat viewers like children who can't handle complexity, then Champions Tennisitics is your home. And make sure you hit that bell notification icon after you subscribe, because YouTube's algorithm is weird and unpredictable. Just being subscribed doesn't guarantee you'll see our videos in your feed. But if you hit the bell, you'll get notified every single time we post new content. That means you'll never miss a deep dive into a developing story. You'll never miss our analysis when a major tournament is happening. You'll never miss those moments when something controversial happens and everyone is arguing about it, and you want to hear a take that actually makes sense of the chaos. The bell icon is how you make sure you're always part of the conversation when it's happening, not 3 days later when everyone has moved on. We've got some absolutely incredible content coming up that you're not going to want to miss. We're planning deep dives into some of the other fascinating storylines developing in tennis right now. We're going to look at the men's tour and examine some rivalries that are reaching boiling points. We're going to break down the economics of tennis in ways that will change how you think about the sport. We're going to interview people inside the tennis world who have perspectives you won't hear anywhere else. We're going to do tournament previews that actually tell you what to watch for instead of just listing who's playing. This channel is evolving, growing, and getting better with every video, and you don't want to be on the outside looking in when we drop something that the entire tennis community is talking about. Let me also say this, because it matters. Champions Tennisitics exists because of you. This isn't some corporate media outlet with a massive budget and a team of producers. This is a channel built by tennis fans for tennis fans. Every view, every like, every comment, every share, that's what allows us to keep making this content. That's what justifies the hours of research that go into these videos. That's what makes it possible to dive this deep into stories and spend the time necessary to get it right. When you engage with this content, you're literally making it possible for this channel to exist and grow. So thank you to everyone who's already subscribed, who already hits the like button, who already leaves thoughtful comments. You're the reason this works. And for those of you who are new here, who maybe found this video because you were searching for news about Coco Gauff or Sabalenka, welcome. Look around at some of our other videos. Check out our previous deep dives. See if this is the kind of tennis content you've been looking for. I think you'll find that we offer something different, something more honest and unflinching than what you typically get from tennis media. We love this sport, but we're not afraid to criticize it when criticism is deserved. We celebrate greatness, but we also call out hypocrisy and inconsistency. We recognize that sports exist at the intersection of entertainment, business, and human psychology, and we try to examine all those dimensions rather than pretending tennis happens in a vacuum. So that's where we are with the Coco Gauff versus Sabalenka rivalry as we head into 2026. The financial scoreboard has spoken, and it has declared Coco the winner by a margin that has to be psychologically devastating for her rival. 33 million versus 30 million sounds close until you break down how that money was earned and realize that the endorsement gap reveals a chasm in public perception that Sabalenka may never be able to bridge. But if sports have taught us anything, it's that the most dangerous competitors are the ones who feel disrespected, who have something to prove, who wake up every morning with a burning desire to make their doubters look foolish. And right now, Sabalenka has more motivation than perhaps any player on tour. The Australian Open is coming up in just a few weeks. The hardcourt season is about to begin. And somewhere, you can bet that Sabalenka is training with an intensity that borders on obsession, visualizing her next match against Coco, planning exactly how she's going to assert dominance, dreaming about the moment when she can look across the net and remind everyone that money can't hit a backhand. Meanwhile, Coco is probably doing photo shoots and signing endorsement contracts and living her best life as the most commercially successful female athlete on the planet. Both approaches are valid. Both women are playing the hand they've been dealt. But when they finally meet again on court, with all this context and history and financial disparity hanging over the match, it's going to be appointment television for anyone who loves sports drama. This is the story of 2025 in women's tennis. And it's going to be the story of 2026 as well. Two generational talents, two completely different paths to success, two women who represent different philosophies about what it means to be a professional athlete in the modern era. One woman who has mastered the art of being both great at tennis and great at marketing herself. Another woman who just wants to be recognized for hitting tennis balls better than almost anyone else on the planet and is increasingly frustrated that excellence in her sport doesn't translate to the recognition and rewards she believes she deserves. Neither perspective is wrong, but they're incompatible, and that incompatibility is what creates the tension that makes this rivalry so compelling. The next chapter starts soon. The next match is coming. The next opportunity for Sabalenka to prove that she's still the better player, or for Coco to prove that she deserves every dollar she's earned. I, for one, cannot wait to see how this unfolds. This is exactly why we love tennis, why we stay up late to watch matches happening on the other side of the world, why we argue passionately with friends about players we've never met. Because at its best, tennis gives us stories like this one, stories about ambition and resentment and excellence and perception, stories that remind us that sports are about so much more than just athletic competition. I'm signing off for now, but this conversation continues in the comments, and it continues with every video we make here at Champions Tennisitics. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. That dedication is exactly why this channel works and why this community is growing. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Smash the like button to help this video reach more tennis fans who need to understand what's really happening in the sport. Drop your thoughts in the comments because I genuinely want to know where you stand on this rivalry. And I'll see you in the next video, where we'll continue exploring the stories that make tennis the most dramatic, fascinating, unpredictable sport on the planet. This is Champions Tennisitics, where we tell the truth about tennis, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.